Hello. Hello. So I'm finishing the 3-part series about the peoples, the peoples and the divine Sibyls and how we are where we are today in so many things. So greetings and happy Easter. Today is Easter and celebrated. It's a great day because it's one of the holidays that still holds the goddess's name in celebration. So, and shows up everywhere in all the fertility symbols and the flowers and just the celebration. So happy Easter, and it's a great day to do this video. So speaking of that, we're going to talk a little bit about names of holidays and the days of the week, just to kind of bring in all of it. So today is Sunday, obviously named after the sun. Monday, named after the moon. Tuesday, I like to go to Spanish. This is how I always remember the days, because in Spanish they are actually named for the planets. So we have Tuesday, Martes, which is for Mars. Wednesday is Miércoles, which is for Mercury. Thursday is it's for Jupiter. Goodness, I'm drawing a blank for the moment. Friday, Viernes, de Venus, and Sábado, Saturday, for the Sabbath and also for Saturn. Okay, and then so there are energies. There are energies that connect us and to the earth, right? Every day is Earth Day, for that's the planet we're on. And then reflected are the other planets within and without us that guide us through the days. And so we have that. And then we have our holy days or holidays, and they also go with these planets and days of the week and those energies. And this actually all came from the Divine Mother, hence the name Easter, Astara, named after one of the first goddesses, Astara. Astarte, there are other names, Esther, Easter, and in that is representation still of the divine goddess, and how even in religion she's still recognized, because that's actually like part of the deal, part of the esoteric magic. Okay, so I mentioned this because in my previous videos, I'm speaking about the Sibyls, and if you tie in the Sibyls to, or the divine feminine, or the prophetesses, which also means messenger, and you go back into the old stories of who were the rulers, who would go where to speak with whom about, say, war or harvest or travel. They would go to see a sage or a sibyl or a prophetess or a diviner. And these are all names that are given, and oftentimes people look at this somewhat in a scary way, because that's been taught to us. It's been taught to all the groups, and this is my point. So from the beginning, we have the feminine teachers, the feminine divine, the feminine prophetesses, who were the ones. They were the teachers. We see this in the names of countries, the names of places named after Sibyls. And even in what has been named to give instruction, it's named after Sibyls. The Kabbalah, the Bible, the Sibyl. Okay, so once the feminine was erased, because that is the first untruth that was bought worldwide. It goes against logic. Everyone comes from the mother. We are born on this planet. It's literally impossible for, in our world, in our realm, it is impossible for a male to give birth. So if there is a father, there must be a mother. We wouldn't call him a father without there being a mother. So we first eliminate any idea that the creatrix or the grand creator is feminine. And we teach the whole world this. We teach the whole world that God is only male. And we enforce this through teachings, through punishment, through violence, through stories. And we create fear, and then we create a place that you go that is also named after a female god, Hell, Helen. These come from Helene. These come from names of prophetesses and goddesses, or Sibyls, or women with great knowledge and teachings. So we have a grand religion that not only switches the creator to a male, but also a male that looks predominantly white. And you teach the whole world this. And you teach the world that those that have resided still in the Americas are the true indigenous Americans. And you teach those across the world and everywhere that only through salvation of a deity that is different from you can you achieve divinity or great works. And you change the language. And then you tell people where they're from. And this brings me back to the peoples. So through history, we've been taught that people of color come from Africa. Anthropologically, if you look at the equator, everyone at the equator is typically brown. Above the equator, they become lighter. Below the equator, they become darker. But all around, most of the people on this planet are very dark. And most people know through science that the lighter skin comes through what is called a quote-unquote mutation to create an albino. And an albino is actually named after Albina, who was considered a black dove prophetess, but yes, she was born an albino, which is where the name comes from. And there was a time when these prophetesses, just like in today's age where prophets and deities are relished and people want to imitate them, the same thing happened with the Sibyls. That's why you see the wigs on the great judges. This is why you see the really tall, poofy black hats for the Scottish. They're actually representing ancient Sibyls. Okay, so these have not been taught. So you erase that entire history. You erase even the medicine that the women brought, which is like birth and nurturing and working through emotions before going into learning languages and learning skills. You must learn to master your emotions before you learn to master skills. These were all things that were taught by the feminine divine. We worked with the child. We didn't incorporate any form of violence. And if there was any pain or any type of harm, there was purposeful healing for the whole group. So you change all of this and you completely reteach it to the entire world. If you dig into history and your research, you will find that South America, even Machu Picchu, which is spoken about quite often, is far, 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 thousands of years older than the pyramids in Egypt and in Africa. And there are more and more information coming out that the original peoples actually began in South America. People used to sail all over the place. There's little tiny islands that go up and down each coast. Look at the Azores for the Portuguese. Do you know how far away that is from Portugal? Those people are actually mestizos. They're mixed peoples because they were island peoples, lost people of Atlantis, right? And so these are people with great magic and great skills. Mostly what we call magic is also skills. Skills of creating, making, armor from melted metal. Is that magic? It's science. And it's also magic because it's creation. So this all leads up to what I consider patternized narcissism, patternized mental illness, patternized separation, which all started from the mother. You teach everyone that God is a man and that women are expendable, which matches the earth. And then you teach white people that they came from these places. And you teach Mexican people that they came from these places. And then you teach African Americans that they came from Africa originally. And then you teach also the African Americans that white people stole your history. That's not true. It's just not true. All history was stolen because the true history is of the mother. All history was stolen. His story. Not the story or her story. Her story became hearsay, heresy. Anything that a woman says is heresy, hearsay. That's how it's spelled, hearsay. And so this design that was created to give certain people knowledge, they know the truth. What we call the 1%ers, or those who have all the knowledge, certain secret groups, they're taught all these things. They're taught about the science of magic. They're taught about the truth of the beginnings. They're taught about extraterrestrials. They're taught about what's going on in the middle of the earth, about ancient beginnings and endings and things that are still happening. They're taught that. They are taught that. We are not taught that. The general public, we are conditioned. We are conditioned. And this is what we must separate ourselves from, is the conditioning of the mental construct of racism, sexism, inequality, even feminism. Feminism is created it's not necessary because the idea of feminism is that we want to be seen as equals. Well, as long as we perpetuate the idea that we're not seen as equals amongst each other, amongst women. I mean, if we want to keep giving people roles, men are supposed to, protect and provide. Learn to protect yourself. No one can protect you. You have to protect yourself. And in a time when it was Sibyl ruled, women were Amazons. Men were terrified of us. That's how badass we were. That's how badass we are. I think men are still terrified of us. The power that we hold, all the control we actually do have in the sense of influence, and the fear that that can bring if we aren't here to do everything, so to speak, give that guidance. So when it comes to the peoples, most of us must recognize we're not from Africa. This is Africa. This is Egypt, the United States and South America. This is where all the peoples came from. the great mothers, the great prophetesses, the great magicians lived in the Grand Canyon and in South America on top of what used to be giant trees. You can research this. I know it sounds way out there, but there is proof to all of what I'm speaking about. And so when we come to this place of now, and we see that we've all been mistaught, it's time for those people who are white, feel connected to the planet, and know that racism and mistreatment is wrong, to step up and teach others that look like them the truth. Just like me as another woman, expressing to other women and other people in general the truth about us. The seers, the tarot readers, the doulas. They used to be called prophetesses and black doves and diviners. Thank you for joining. There'll be more. Research. Know thyself. Much love.